Welcome to the Anti-Noise Experience, podcast endurance, noise, and random musings. It is Saturday night, September 19th, 2020, here in Bakersfield, California, and was out walking and training with some of my friends from the Bakersfield Distance Project, and often the topic comes up of kids. My kids are all in their late 20s, so I've already been there, done that, and I also taught high school and coached high school but I quit doing that back in 2006. But I was kind of good that I got out of teaching. I taught high school, kind of got out before this whole wave of parents so heavily involved and actually siding with the students more than the teachers. And, you could basically teach and not be bothered. And, the parents are supportive of you, not saying, what are you doing wrong? And then, of course, when I was coaching, I coached Bakersfield High from 2006 to 2009. Coaching cross country and track, and for the most part, parents left us alone. No one was really interested in cross country and track, and few parents really understood it. But that was over a decade ago, and now when I go out to meets, I've noticed that because of the internet, everyone thinks they're a coach, everyone thinks they're an expert, and I'm sure it has making difficult. I know a lot of my coaching friends have been leaving the sport because of that. And this article was on Training Peaks, which is a coaching. The articles I post are about coaching more than anything else, but I like going over some of these because it helps everyone. And so many of you, if you're not a coach, you may be a parent, and you might want to learn some of these tips. And this one it's on my Patreon, which you can get Patreon/Antinoise. And I posted this article on there and kind of highlighted the things that I thought of their interest. And it says, here are expert tips on how to handle passionate and opinionated athlete parents. And of course it says, sports can play a large role throughout a child's development and in many cases will throughout the rest of their life. Many parents envision sport as providing valuable structure and discipline and a positive physical outlet for their child. And I would say when I was a kid, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, sports was a way to get the kid out of the house and give them something to do, burn off excess energy. Now, so many parents think their kid's going to get a scholarship or become professional, which, if you do the math, is insane. You're not going to get a college scholarship, and you'd be much better off spending time hitting the books. When I was coaching cross country, one of the most difficult things we had was a lot of our soccer kids were phenomenally gifted athletes and been running around chasing a soccer ball since a young kid. So they had great fitness, and so often their freshman year they're doing really well. But the parents would be like, oh well, and it usually was the daughters. She's playing soccer, she's going to get a scholarship, and you'd be like, your daughter's 5'2" and weighs 100 pounds. She's not playing Division I soccer anywhere. But the parents would, not believe it. And, and then these poor kids are like leaving Friday afternoon, playing soccer all weekend, and then coming home late Sunday night and coming to school. And so their studies, not all of them, a lot of kids did really well, but it hurts their studies, and they're tired all the time, and then a risk of injuries. And you would see it all the time. And then it was interestingly that as the girls would get older, junior, senior year, and they didn't grow, parents would then suddenly come to me and say, hey, what about this track and cross country? And I used to tell them the beautiful thing of cross country and track is like cross country, we have this famous course, Woodward Park, where the state meet's been held since 1987. And so everybody knows times on that course. And I often tell people, like if your daughter breaks 20, she might get emails from a college. She breaks 19, she might get phone calls. And if she breaks 18, she's going to get home visits because it's just black and white. Or with soccer, you never know. Is she really good or he really good? Or is the competition lousy? And there's just so many things that are involved. But with running especially, it's therefore. So here in the article says, therefore, it is the job of the coach to serve as a mentor and control the stress imposed on a young athlete. And I saw it a lot when I was coaching cross country. A lot of the girls were burnt out on soccer and really didn't want to play, but it became such a huge social thing for the parents. The parents loved the soccer weekends. Sure, they'd complain, but you get a lot of soccer parents who just were really into it. And so, you kind of scroll down here, focus on the fun factor. First and foremost, athletes should have fun while participating in sports. And what I saw youth sports today didn't look like much fun. My children were born in the early 90s, 92, 93, and then 97. Even though I played baseball, basketball, football, played everything under the sun, they were never too interested in sports. We put them into AYSO soccer when they were 5 or 6 years old. They didn't enjoy it, and then they left it. And then, of course, my oldest son when he went to high school after graduating Bearsville College. He did run cross country, but that was more just to socialize and have fun doing that. So, yeah. And then it says, so kids under 12, there shouldn't be any pressure, but we've got these all-star leagues and traveling teams and all this. And so it says once you get after 12, yeah, you got, there's more competitive aspects and that stuff. It says here, the problem arises when we impose adult level motivation and expectation on kids who are not ready. Child has to start with a true love of the sport as the initial foundation. And that's totally true. And then, of course, it says, the coaches at the beginning of the season, you need to set the tone and lay out expectations. And I think this is really important. But the problem is, again, you just get this professionalization of youth sports, and parents just get too overboard on it. I mean, I used to have my Bakersfield Distance Project at Yokitz Park, and it has a lit soccer field there. And so you see these almost professional organizations out there training, and parents are at every practice sitting on the sidelines analyzing, and I just thought it was crazy. And then what's weird is like the kids sometimes actually like want the parent there all the time, which just seemed like, when I was growing up, parents maybe drove you or dropped you off at practice, but they didn't stick around and hang out at practice and analyze everything, and just seems super stressful. And it also here says you also have to set consistent expectations for yourself, which include treating every parent the same. And we definitely see that as an issue. You can't treat your star kids' parents differently than your bench warmers, or like with me running cross country, you have your top 7 varsity, and then you've got the top 7 frosh soft that are freshmen, sophomores, and then you got a huge JV team. But you got to treat all the kids and all the parents the same, foster that environment, because you know what, those kids, every kid deserves to be treated properly. And it says here, the more independent research they do, the more likely conflicting advice will serve as a potential backfire on you as a coach. And it says, educating parents on current practices. You should keep them informed, but ultimately you need to lay down the law and say, look, I'm the coach. You either chose me or the school chose me, and this is, we're going to do it my way, because you're going to be miserable if you don't. And if you're a parent, you need to back off. And, if you really dislike how the coach is coaching, you need to go elsewhere, especially with these club teams. There's no reason to. And so as a coach, try to put yourself out there as an educational resource for the parents, and keep them informed. But that's kind of thing. And here's a big one, diversify activities. Definitely kids should be playing lots of different sports throughout the year. They shouldn't be, now you get kids like at a young age, junior high, are already professional volleyball players, professional soccer players, professional baseball players. I remember I see posts, I used to make fun of parents. They'd be like, oh, I'm freezing cold here, you're watching my son play baseball. And I'm like, yeah, because your son shouldn't be playing baseball in January. It's not baseball season, even when you're in California. It says research has proven that athletes throughout their younger years who participate in multiple sports are more successful than their single sport counterparts. If a parent isn't encouraging their athletes to try new things, then it's up to you to suggest other fun activities for the athletes to try. And that's definitely the case. I've often said, when I was coaching high school cross-country track, we got invited to these really good Nike clinics. And one year Pete Carroll shows up. We never knew who was going to be the guest speaker. And first we're like, why is a football coach here? And at the time he was at USC. I don't believe he'd even been up to Seattle yet. And he told us, of course, he was playing to the audience, but I mean, that guy, I would run through walls for him, very motivational. But he said, you know what? I want my quarterback to be a shortstop and a point guard. I want him in playing conditions as much as possible. And if all he's doing is playing football and training, he's only going to play, 12 games a year. And I want them playing more and being exposed, and also playing sports that maybe they're not as gifted in. So, your great quarterback might be a decent shortstop, but not a great shortstop. And so that's definitely a case. And then it says the motivations can include anything like skill improvement, spending time with friends, making their parents proud, feeling strong, making the high school team. And it's understanding why your athlete's out there and what's going on. Now, like my oldest son, Christopher, he was diagnosed Asperger many years after we already knew that. We knew something was going on. So he went to junior college instead of junior high, and then he went to high school after junior college. And, I had him run at first. It was just more to be socialized, have him play a sport. The thing was he was 6 foot tall and weighed 130 pounds, so he wasn't going to play anything else. And I was a runner, and, his teammates really embraced him. They, of course, embraced him because you need 5 guys to score in a cross country, and he was always a reliable 5th guy. But at first, first year or two, he ran because I wanted him to, and he was just a participant. But then his junior year, he all of a sudden became a competitor, almost too competitive. He almost got disqualified in a race one time for trying to block a kid from passing him, and actually got photos of him grabbing the kid's jersey. I remember when his teammates saw that, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Christopher's really caring," because before that he just kind of ran fast, but he was never really. It was just kind of that kind of thing. So here it says, as a final note, I like to refer to the quote from Jenny Weber. Remind everyone that while coaching is personal, treating everyone fairly is the only way to unite a team. No matter what place the child finishes in a race, everyone needs to feel they matter. Every parent needs to feel they are getting a great value for belonging to your organization, and your organization needs to focus on inclusion, engagement for all. And, I took that from my high school coaching experience and have moved it over to my Beggars Resistance project, which after coaching high school for 3 years, that's what I ended up moving and doing the run camp in 2009. And that was kind of the way I do with the Beggars Resistance Project. And I'm now coaching the parents instead of the kids. And I always tell everybody it's all ages, all abilities. And I design workouts so that everyone can participate. Nobody feels like they're holding people back, and try and foster a team spirit. But also we end up all getting better because of that. So as always, stay healthy, be boring.